going on, homies? Hey, Daniel here from these 7Cs. This is just gonna be another impromptu video, just because I thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of share with you the second Strider that I got into my collection. So this one is the first one. This is a Strider SNG. This is the Monkey Edge, that frag pattern edition. I guess these are a little bit more unique. I don't think they're like super rare, but they're definitely a little bit more special than kind of the usual fare, the usual SNG configuration. So I got this in about 3 weeks ago. I actually traded my CKF Evo 3.0 for this guy, because I wanted to try an SNG out. Like I said, I've been in this knife game for for a few years, and I never tried this guy, and so I was really curious, and I saw a trade offer up on the knife swap, and so I just pulled the trigger, and man, boy, I did not realize I was gonna go down this rabbit hole. So this is the first SNG that I got. Now, soon after, I would say about a week after, I was hankering for another SNG, guys. So I'm gonna tell you right off the bat that Strider knives are really, really unique, really interesting. But it really did check all the boxes that that for me makes a great EDC knife, right? And so second one I got in hand was this guy. Now this is the Tiger Stripe Gunner Grip Hybrid. I think that's what they call it, because on the flip side you just got that titanium lock side, and then this is in the PSF 27 steel. Now, one thing there's several things to note about Strider. If you're kind of looking to get into Strider knives, I think a couple helpful things to know is that Strider knives, they're kind of like Spyderco in that they play around with a lot of different steels. So you're gonna have an SNG with like a CTS XHP. You're gonna have ones with S30V, S35 VN, 20CV, and then like PSF 27. I mean, they play around with a ton of different steels, but also what's common is that, not common, but very similar to Spyderco, is that their heat treat is like super on point, guys. I don't know what else to say. So this one, see, as you see here, this one is actually in the CPM 3V, and in my initial just using these knives, I feel like the steel performance has been just excellent, guys. And so Strider is just, they love to just kind of play around with different steels, and they really dialed in the heat treat for all the different steels that they use. Secondly is, if you're gonna get into a Strider community, the Strider community is very interesting. It's kind of like its own little universe of their own, I guess you could say that with a lot of the knife kind of fan base out there, right? So you could say that for like Chris Reeves knives, for example, but I feel like Strider knives is kind of like they're doing their own thing, and I think it's very much in line with the whole kind of the philosophy that Mick Strider has, is that he's always done his own thing. He hasn't really given too much thought into what people say about him or what the knife, where the knife industry is going. He's just been doing his own thing this whole time. So with that being said, there's not a lot of changes to these iconic designs, right? So in that vein, they're a lot like Chris Reeve knives. The Chris Reeve knives, they're been doing their own thing. They're not coming out with flippers. They're not coming out with ball bearing pivot systems. They're doing their thing, and they're gonna stick with the tried and true. Same thing goes for Strider knives. You know, they're gonna stick with their tried and true. So over the years, there definitely have been, you know, a few little changes. You know, so if you Google, you know, Strider SNG, you're gonna see some of these changes. I'll point them out. I don't have an older SNG, you know, in my collection, but you know, for example, that stop pin is a little bit different. The body screws, they changed it up a little bit. I don't know what else aside from that, really. Yeah, I think those are really the major changes, actually. So, I think their fit and finish and their quality control, I think, has definitely been more dialed in from what I've heard. But here, this kind of leads to my next point. If you're the type of guy that needs perfection, right? You're kind of used to like the Chris Reeve knife level, like perfection, or I don't know, like, yeah. Then just understand that Strider knives, in my mind, they are nearly perfect, but they're perfect in different ways, right? So, like, you know, let me bring this out. So with Chris Reeve knives, you're always gonna 99% of the time you're gonna have a centered blade. You're rarely gonna have, you know, lock stick, maybe a little bit, you know, but they're fairly consistent across the board. You know what I mean? Like, their fit and finish is just, is just gonna be very, it's gonna be the same, I feel like, across all the different knives that they produce, you know. But with Strider knives, you're gonna get, at least in my experience and what I've kind of seen in the forum or in their Facebook page, is that they're cool with just, you know, if the knife is a little bit off centered, and you know, they're okay with lock stick. You know, I think it's part of like that Strider experience of breaking in these knives. And so these knives, I got it on the secondary market, so they have been carried and used for a little bit, but I would say they're kind of on the newer side, right? And so there was a little bit of lock stick, and there still is. You know, if you might pop, see. Same goes for this guy. See that there's a little bit of lock stick. It's nothing like nothing crazy. You know, I've had worse lock stick on my hinders than these guys. These guys, I feel like, provide just the right amount of stickiness so that you feel there is that confidence that these are locked in. And the next thing that I do want to say is that one thing that Strider is known for is their locks being ultra secure and never failing. Well, I don't want to say never. I'm pretty sure there's stories out there that you know, where the lock has failed, but I'll say probably 99% of what I've seen and heard is that, you know, this knife will not fail on you in terms of the lock. You know, it might crumple a little bit, it might get marred up a little bit, but I guess the way they've engineered the lock is essentially like fail proof. And so that's, you know, that's cool. You know, and you definitely feel it, you know, when you're using it. You know, you definitely feel there is no, you know, rock or like side to side blade play. You know, these are, I mean, as secure as like a Chris Reeve knife, you know. What else can I say about these guys? These definitely have their own soul and their own character. I think that's why people really love Strider knives. Is they're, like I said, they're kind of doing their own thing. Sorry, this one for some reason. Okay, there you go. That rarely happens, guys. I don't know. It always happens when I'm recording. But they're doing their own thing, you know, and I think there's something very special about that. You feel kind of like you're like in a special club, you know, when you're, you know, when you have Striders in your collection, you know. They kind of have like their own lingo, you know. I made I guess it's like a really bad mistake in the way that I wrote SNG. So I know it's you have to write it in a certain way. Like you can't just have lower, sometimes we just kind of are nonchalant. We'll just write the names, we'll type in the name of the knife in all lowercase, just because, we're like, oh, everyone knows what it means. But there's a very specific way that you're supposed to write this name, and it should be all in capitals, like capital S, capital N, capital G, or capital S, lowercase n, and capital G. So you'll get called out by the community if you write it down wrong, right? And and you could, it could be taken, different ways, but I've come to understand that this community is really passionate, and they really just want to make sure that we get the names right, because there is a lot of meaning behind the names that are given to these knives. So just keep that in mind. If you're gonna get into these communities, just make sure you're aware of how to write the names correctly. Okay. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just getting over a cold. With that being said, yeah, so in the matter of like 3 weeks, I've gotten 2 SNGs into my collection, and I'm really beginning to understand why these knives are so special and why people love them. It's definitely, it's got its own character, its own soul. It's an excellent user, guys. I was a little bit hesitant because you see these blade stocks are really thick. I don't have anything in my collection. Maybe let me see if the Les George. Maybe the Les George is a little bit. Yeah, I would say maybe they're kind of comparable. But these are relatively thick blade stocks. But this guy is a what you call 3/4 grind, and it's actually a hollow grind, so it actually cuts pretty good. You still have that really robust that spine, in that tip. So it's a very robust knife. This one cuts really, really well. So if you're looking for a strider that, that cuts super, super well, it's like the best cutter, I would say you should go with something like, I believe they call this the dagger grind. I could be mistaken. I'm still learning, guys. I'm still very new into the strider community, so I might be getting this wrong. But I heard someone tell me that this is what they call a dagger grind, where you have almost a full flat grind. It almost goes up, maybe 90% up, and then you have this swedge on the spine. But what you do get is a very nicely you got really nice like behind the edge angles, and so this one actually cuts very well. I've already broke down several cardboard boxes. These are kind of like extra heavy duty boxes, and this thing cut really well. I'll say between these two, this thing cuts better, but this thing still does cut. You might get a little bit of a hang up on that shelf right there. Oh, and that does remind me, the next thing I do want to mention is that you have this little I don't know what to call it, a little cutout area right here. It's not sharpened, as you can see, right? It's not a sharpened area, but what does kind of tend to happen is that material will kind of get hung up right there. So if you're cutting, all the material starts to kind of gather right there, so it will kind of get caught up, and sometimes you get hung up on the material. So just a little detail I noticed, but overall it's been a great performer. The size is great. It sits very well in the pocket. Now, like I mentioned, there's various different configurations. Okay, you'll get this kind of this they call it this monkey edge frag pattern. Looks something like that. You see that in a lot of the other, I think Chris Reeve Knives has done something with monkey edge as well. Hinder Knives, as they have some of their models come out with this frag pattern. So that's one configuration. And then you got, of course, a black blade, you got tiger stripe, you got stonewash. You have like 1,000 different configurations. This is the gunner grip. You got the double gunner grip, which is this pattern, but they also have that on the titanium side. You have the CC, or I think that's what they call the concealed carry, and that's like the smooth kind of G10 that's been contoured. You got aluminum scale ones. You got various G10 ones. You got titanium ones. The performance series, I believe, comes in titanium scales. And then that's just like the kind of the production performance side of it. When you start to get into like their custom stuff, it goes off the charts. I mean, you could just Google it. Just Google like Mick Strider custom knives, and you'll see crazy stuff. Like you'll see, things like the nightmare grind that he's known for, serrated edges, worn cliff. I mean, different anodized titanium scale. It just gets. I mean, it's its own universe, and so I hope that was helpful. What I noticed is that I feel like Strider knives have really made a resurgence in the last few years. A few years ago they shuttered Strider knives. I guess it was like the production company of Strider knives, and then Mick Strider kind of did his own thing, and so Strider knives they're around, and Mick Strider still he still produces production grade knives, but it's in smaller batches. It's definitely harder to get. Just recently, this past Friday, today is March 4th, I believe, but yesterday they did a drop. So if you want to get a knife directly from Mick Strider, then I would say follow his Instagram, because that's where they usually let us know when he's going to be dropping knives on his website. And they're very small batch drops, and it's different configurations each time. So the most recent one was in the crosshatch G10 with I believe it was PD1 steel, and so that thing was gone in under, I think, 2 minutes. So they're very hard to get, like brand new from the man himself. But I do see these pop up on the knife swap from time to time. But if you really, really want to get one, I would say join their Facebook group. They have the Mick Strider Facebook group. I forgot the name of it, but just you could search on Facebook like Mick Strider official Facebook group or something like that. They have a ton of Strider knives that are always on sale or for trade. So I would say that would be your best bet. And the pricing is interesting. I would say for, it's okay. I think if you get brand new from Mick Strider, you're going to be dishing out $450 to $550, I would say, right? Which is, I feel like, in line with a lot of the high-end production knives. Like, Chris Reeve just upped their prices. So now it's like in the $500 range. And so I feel like it's nothing alarming, I think you get a really fantastic knife for that money. But I noticed in the secondary market, it does go up a little bit. And so, for example, if you get a brand new Strider for like $500, you're probably on the secondary, they're going to be selling for about $600. That's what I've seen. $550, $600. All right. And so I feel like there definitely has been a resurgence in popularity for Strider knives. And I think coupled with the fact that they're hard to get, and it's almost like its own exclusive community, and I definitely feel like I'm a part of this kind of exclusive club. And I've never really felt like that. Even with Chris Reeve knives, I feel like Chris Reeve knives, there's just a lot out there, and there's a lot of different groups and forums and fan bases, but with Strider knives, they're kind of a little bit more insular. They're kind of like they're doing their own thing. I'm not saying that they're like jerks, what I mean? Like, but it's more of they're just in and of unto themselves, I feel like, and so, for example, I was trying to trade a non-Strider knife for a Strider knife, and it was really, really hard to do. Like, folks in the Strider community, they're not really interested, I feel like, in other knives. I may be wrong, but it was just really hard. I feel like with like Chris Reeve, you could trade into a lot of different knives, or I could trade a non-Chris Reeve for a Chris Reeve. I feel like the Chris Reeve fan base are a little bit more open to trading into other knife brands, but with Strider now, I feel like it was a little bit harder. I was eventually able to, like I said, trade my Evo 3.0, but I feel like it has to be that special knife, that they're not. I don't know if they're gonna be wanting to trade like a Microtech or maybe a special Chris Reeve, right? So that's that. Those are my thoughts. I really like Strider SNGs. I haven't tried like the SMF or like all the other different models out there, but to me, I feel like the SNG is perfect. It really fits my medium-sized hands well, especially when you choke up on that forward finger choil. This is like money, guys. This feels so good. The only thing also to know, I know, guys, I'm scattered all over the place. I'm not organized today, but this angle right here, it's an interesting kind of a ergonomic design. For most people, I've heard that it's totally fine, no issues. But if you have, you may feel that angle in the back, possibly. I feel it, and I have just like medium size average hands, but it's not like a hot spot, so I do feel it, but it's not like, ooh, this is bothersome at all. And when I've been breaking down boxes and using this knife, I haven't felt it, so that's just that. If you're just curious, because it is a kind of a funky looking knife, right? It does look like it's not going to be very comfortable in the hand because there's like it's just kind of angular in a lot of ways, but it actually, I think Strider really found the magic potion, because this feels really good, guys. It really does. Even if I just, go back on it, it feels good. I think this kind of, all this right here, it really fills in the palm of your hand, so it does feel very, very secure. It feels like it's not going anywhere, which is opposite of what, if you look at my ProTech Malibu video, it was a little bit different because the Malibu kind of thins out towards the back, and so I feel like something was a little bit missing, right? This one feels like there's a lot of girth, so it feels very, very secure. Anyways, this video is going on longer than I anticipated. These are just my initial thoughts on Strider knives. This was really for folks that are really curious or thinking about getting into Strider knives. Hope this helped. But with that being said, if you have any questions or comments or anything else, reach out. Drop a comment, drop a like, and subscribe. All right, I'll talk to you soon.